going to talk about how to calculate determinants for 2 by 2 matrices and 3 by 3 matrices. 2 by 2 is going to be very simple. If you have a 2 by 2 matrix, you want the determinant. Well, first, you put these bars around it to say determinant. And you multiply these two values minus, you multiply those two values, and you're done. For example, you have 3, 1, 2, 5. And you want the determinant of this, you multiply those two numbers, 15 minus, multiply those two numbers, 2, 15 minus 2, 13. If you have 3, negative 2, 4, negative 5, you want the determinant, you multiply those two numbers, you get negative 6. Minus, you multiply these two numbers, get negative 20. Don't say you already have the negative. It's one number minus another number. That second number is negative 20. This is the same as negative 6 plus 20, or 20 minus 6, which, if I'm not mistaken, is 14. You have 2, 3, negative 4, negative 6. The determinant will be negative 12 minus, negative 12 again. You subtract the same numbers, you get 0. You don't have to change and then say, in addition, if the signs are different, keep the sign of the larger number and change. If you subtract the same numbers, you get 0. Every one of you would agree that x minus x is 0. Well, just because I tell you that x is negative 5 is no reason not to say it's 0. So, finding determinants of a 2 by 2 matrix is very straightforward. Don't even, as long as you know how to add and subtract and multiply, you don't even have to really practice. What you do need to remember is that you multiply those two numbers minus, you multiply those two numbers. Okay? It's more important that you memorize that step than do examples. Okay, now everything changes when we have a 3 by 3 matrix. If you were asked to find the determinant of this matrix, find the determinant of that matrix, what you do is you write it down again. And then you repeat the first two columns. 1, 0, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then you do something that is called the spaghetti technique. It's just spaghetti. You multiply these numbers, you get 1, plus, you multiply these numbers, you get 2, plus, you multiply these numbers, you get 0. Now minus. Now you go the other way. You start at the bottom left. You multiply those numbers, plus. You multiply these numbers, get 2, plus. Multiply these numbers, you get 0. Now, it's really interesting how I got the exact same results. If I multiplying the exact same numbers. But all right, so here we're going to get 0. Because this is 3, 1 plus 2 is 3, add 0 is 3. Again, you get 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. And of course it's going to be 0. I'm not going to get into why, but of course it's going to be 0. You have two rows that are exactly the same. But nonetheless, use the spaghetti method. Suppose you have 1, negative 2, 3, 0, 1, negative 2, negative 1, negative 3, 0. And you want to calculate the determinant of this. You write down the 9 entries. Now this method that I'm showing only works for the 3 by 3. Copy the first two columns at the end. 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2, 1, negative 3. And the answer is going to be one number minus another number. Multiply these three numbers, you get 0. Plus. You multiply these three numbers, you get negative 4. Plus. Multiply these three numbers, you get 0. The whole sum is negative 4. Minus. Now you do the diagonals the other way. You multiply those three numbers, you get negative 3. Plus. Multiply these three numbers, you get 6. Plus. You multiply these three numbers, you get 0. Negative 3 plus 6, also known as 6 minus 3, is 3. If you take away 4, and then you take away 3 more, you took away 7. The determinant is negative 7. Let's try one more. Repeat the first two columns at the end. Tic-tac-toe. Negative 1, 0, 1, 0, negative 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. What is the determinant of this matrix? Well, copy it down. First two columns get repeated. One of the things you should study, and this is where students always make mistakes. When they do one sum minus the other, they do it backwards. They'll multiply these first. They multiply these first. It's not the correct way. You do the main diagonal first. Multiply these numbers, you get 1. Plus, multiply the next set of numbers, you get 0. Please, you multiply a string of numbers and one of the numbers is 0. Don't spend too much time multiplying the numbers. You'll get 0, like in that case. So it turns out, in this first bracket, is just 1. Then you do, there's a minus here. Then you do this diagonal. Get negative 1 plus another negative 1 plus 0. Get negative 2. 1 minus a negative 2 is as easy as 1 plus 2. You can change both of these anytime you like. 1 plus 2, of course, is 3. That's how you do determinants. It's a very mechanical process. You have to know the order. You have to know the steps. Don't do a million problems. Okay, if you know how to multiply and add, don't have to do but one of these. you need to spend more time knowing the steps. Well, walk down the street. How do I find the determinant of a 3 by 3 matrix? Answer is, first you write down this 3 by 3 matrix, then you repeat the first two columns in column 4 and column 5, and then starting at the top left-hand corner, you multiply all diagonals. They give you 3 numbers. That is, don't multiply that diagonal. It only gives you 1 number. Don't add on that product of that diagonal. It only gives you 1 number. Why don't you start here, going the other way? There's only 1 number. Here is only 1 number. Here is 3 numbers. Here is 3 numbers. Here is 3 numbers. This is not 3 numbers. This is not 3 numbers. Okay. Actually, let's do one more. In fact, we'll just have a little fun here. We'll prove a little theorem. I claim the determinant will just be the product of the numbers on the diagonal. So what do? We write down the matrix. We add on the first 2 columns, and then we multiply. It's one set of numbers minus another set of numbers. It's ABC plus 0 plus 0 minus 0 plus 0 plus 0. This is 0, and this is just ABC. You have ABC, and you take away 0, get ABC. Even if these zeros up here were 10, it'll still turn out that the product of the ABC. If everything below the diagonal is 0, or everything above the main diagonal is 0, the answer will be the product of the entries on the diagonal. But there's absolutely nothing different here. I multiplied the same. I wrote this down the same way. I multiplied this and this and this. I added them up. I multiplied these 3, these 3, these 3. I added them up. I subtracted. I got what I got. Okay, this completes the section on calculation of determinants. Next section, we're going to find out why we bother to learn determinants. We're going to use determinants to solve system of equations in a different way, using determinants.